Hey guys, welcome back. I had hoped to work with this song with the full group, and this was the plan for right when we got back. Honeysuckle Rose is a classic that's out of the swing era. The version I'm most familiar with is Ella Fitzgerald, but Louis Armstrong did this song a lot. There's versions by Charlie Parker. You can find lots of different recordings of this tune. It's a great tune. One of the things I love about this tune is the melody is a little quirky. The dee-da-doo-doo-dee, very angular. You can see it from the notation here. It leaps around a lot. It's got this nice little repetition that people had of all sorts of quirky ways of dealing with, and this little sequence in the melody that happens a couple times. So when we mix all these things together, it's just got a lot of personality to it. The reason we're working on this tune is because it's a great way to start exploring horizontal improvisation. Now, we dabbled on this on Killer Joe a little bit already. Killer Joe had that kind of horizontal scale we morphed everything into. We found a way to get the C7, B flat 7 to basically be one scale and one long drawn out sound that we could then explore more naturally. Honeysuckle Rose looks complicated. A minor, D7, so on. By the way, these changes are for B flat tenor saxophone. This is what the concert part looks like if you're curious. And all of these are available on the files section of the website, which I'll show you towards the end of the video. But I'm going to look at the B flat one for now, since that's what I'm comfortable with. What we're looking at is all these different chord changes, but turns out the vast majority of what you're hearing in the A section is all in one key. Now, one of your tasks this week is to figure out what key that is. So I'm not going to completely give it away, but let's just say this progression can only really be one thing. When you get to the bridge, it does change keys a couple times. This is G7. Notice this is G major. If we're looking at this in concert, let's go back to concert briefly. F major 7, F7. F major 7 has an E natural in it. F7 has an E flat. Of course, these things can't be the same key as each other. That's a change in note. Therefore, is a change in key signature. So something's going on, and one of your tasks this week is to figure out what that is right here. And then this 4-bar phrase is, you'll notice these chords are the same, so we're kind of getting back into whatever's going on here. But that G7 is a bit of an anomaly because there's a B. The third of this chord is a B. The seventh of this chord is a B flat. So these guys aren't exactly in the same key. When you take a look at the analysis page, you're going to see me mention this concept called secondary dominance. So let me explain what that is. When you're seeing something like a G7 going to C, here's what I'm looking for. G is the fifth note of C. Now I have these memorized, and I'm going to encourage that you work towards that too. I can spot fives of chords very quickly. Did not come naturally at first, but it gets pretty easy pretty fast when you start to think about it. When I see a 5-1, and I see this thing like dominant, dominant, or a dominant that's not in the key, but it's going to a chord that's in the key. When I see that, what I'm probably looking at is a secondary dominant. It's a really fancy way of saying I'm temporarily pretending like this is the key I'm in. So then that becomes a normal 5 chord because I'm pretending like I'm in this key. It's a really pleasing sound to the ear. It's a little chromatic, it's got a brightness, and it's got a lot of momentum to it. But really, you can kind of fake just playing in the key you've been in this entire time. Or you can go out of your way to bring out what makes that chord cool. So it gives you some options. By default, a horizontal player is probably not going to worry so much about this chord. They're going to hear this chord as this like passing sound that's coming back in the key. So I can sort of get away with playing this whole section like it's in one key. The sharp ear will pick up that there's this one note kind of sticking out in here that you might want to draw attention to, that note being the B natural. So really you're talking about what key is the A section in. Then we just have a repeat of that. And then we have this little 4-bar phrase we have to identify. That'll be a new key. And then really the rest of this is back in our home key. You know, this secondary dominant chord aside. Now you may discover a few little quirks along the way. You might see this F7 here. You might see this, this A minor D7 here. They have some foreign notes. These are all just secondary dominants as well. Secondary dominants, once again, are basically just colorful ways of extending the key we're already in. So the horizontal player is not going to worry about these too much. The vertical player, the person who's going to try to bring out all the chord changes, they may get into this more. Us as horizontal improvisers at this stage in the class really can just play through those. So I hope I've given you enough basic information. I'm going to play you a little bit of an excerpt of me actually performing this song for you guys. I played with the play along that you can see in my files here. In fact, if I start and play a little bit of that, I'm not sure how loud this is going to be on your end. The technology limitations of this whole online thing are a little crazy. But once it starts playing, you'll get the general idea what the play along does. There we go. So it's the background tracks. You get the general idea. So this is the play along that I've provided for you guys. You'll find that in the files section of the site. Once again, I'll show you how to get to those shortly. I've also given you all these lead sheets. You also have this track that I'm going to play you now. This is the same thing we just listened to, except that I've taken the time to add saxophone to it and demonstrate a horizontal solo.
1, 2.
What I'm doing on this,
3, 4.
I'm basically playing the melody with some variations. I'm playing around a little bit with the rhythms. Little variations on the melody that I stole mostly from Ella Fitzgerald. I try to play the bridge really consistent with the way it is. I think on the way out on this recording, I believe I quote Ella on the bridge instead of playing the bridge as is. I just happen to really like how she did it. It's so embedded in my ear. I can't help but play it the way she likes it. And then I took a horizontal solo. So here I'm playing on what I call the dominant side of the chord. Dominant side of the scale, sorry. And here I'm playing on the tonic side of the scale. Here my lines sound like they're really fitting in with what's going on. Back onto the dominant side. There's a trick to that, which I'll tell you about in a minute. Now I'm back on the tonic side. The bridge I pretty much play as is. So as a vertical player by nature, I can't help but bring out that G7 chord. I'm back on the tonic side. Okay, so you get the general idea. Pause that. All right, so what we end up with is I end up with a solo that is just pretty much just playing on the scales. I did very little that was outside of the key. Every once in a while, a little bit of chromaticism just because I liked the sound, but it wasn't a theory trick or anything. I wasn't doing anything too elaborate. I just played the connecting note between two other notes. That doo-vee-doot, doo-vee-doo-vee-dot, doo-vee-dot, where I crept up by half steps. That's all that was. I wasn't thinking of the harmonies. I just knew that that's the note I wanted to end up at, and I didn't want to get there too fast, so I put some extra chromatic notes in there. So you don't have to think too hard about this. You just listen to the key, let the song tell you what it wants. Your ears for that will get better the more you do this kind of stuff. Let me explain this tonic dominant thing. So when I'm playing in a scale like F major, like we're looking at here on the A section, when I'm playing in a given scale, there's the dominant side of the scale and the tonic side of the scale. And what that really means is that certain notes sound more like the 5 chord and certain notes sound more like the 1 chord. Now really it's 6 of the notes do a great job capturing the 5 chord, and 6 of the 7 notes do a great job capturing the 1 chord. So we're really dealing with just getting rid of one note. And that one note is pretty easy to remember. When I'm on the 5 chord, don't play the key center. Don't play the root. So if I'm on a C7, don't play an F. Now, I should be careful and not say don't play an F. What I should say is don't make that note important. So don't linger on it. That's that handle with care note we've talked about in class. They call it the avoid note. It doesn't mean don't play it, but just don't linger on it and make that note a central part of your phrase. That note should just sort of exist in passing or be avoided. And then when we get to the 1 chord, when we get to the F major chord, It's the B flat. Same thing, it's the avoid note. In this case, it's the note a half step above the third. The B flat here sounds more like the dominant chord, and so it pulls you away. So if I play too much F against a C7, it's like getting to the punchline of a joke before I've finished telling the joke. And then if I get back to F7, if I get to F major 7 and I hang out on the B flat, it's a little like getting to the punchline and then backing up and retelling the joke again. It sort of wrecks the effect. So when you're improvising your own solos, think carefully about that. How do I want to bring attention to where I'm at? I'm in the 5-ish area. Well, maybe I'll avoid the root of the key. Now I'm in the 1-ish area. Maybe I'll avoid the 4 of the key. If I do that, you're going to find your lines get more strong more quickly. All right, so that's about enough of that. Let me show you a little bit about what's going on the website. So this is the files section. When you're in Canvas, you just click this files button, and you're going to see there's a whole lot of stuff in here under the Honeysuckle Rose page. What I have is an Ella Fitzgerald track. Now that is an iTunes track. If you're not an Apple person, then I've provided a YouTube link on the analysis page that'll take you to, I believe it's the same exact recording. It's not labeled the same way on YouTube, but I think it's the same track. This horizontal demo is the thing we just listened to of me playing it. These are 4 different lead sheets, one for each key of the instruments we have in the class, and then this is that play-along track with nobody playing over it. All you need to do is read through the pages, make sure you understand what's going on, and that's about it. Last thing I'm going to mention, and this will get reiterated on the page too, Wednesday at our normal time, which is 1 o'clock, Wednesday I'm going to host a Google Meet meeting, and there'll be a link to that done through the announcements. There's only maybe 3 or 4 people who are going to be able to participate in this version of this class, but I'd love to see you guys online. We can talk more through these ideas. I can share some concepts, play some piano and saxophone for you guys, and we'll kind of get our plans set for the semester. So that'll be 1 o'clock on Wednesday, probably for about a half hour, 45 minutes. All right, that's it, guys. I hope to see you guys as we go forward, and thanks so much.